Hello everybody, how you doing? Greetings, this is Damien from Chessoptics. I'm just bringing you another one of the games that I played on chess.com between an opponent named Griffity76. He's rated 1705. I had a little bit higher of a rating than him, not too much. But the game, it's kind of went sour when he sacked his queen, lost his queen actually. I don't know if he sacrificed it intentionally. I highly doubt it. He tried to fight on, but there was really no hope after that. The reason why I want to show you this game is because he didn't give up, and a lot of times, in certain situations, if you don't give up, you can kind of come back. But in this game, I don't think that was possible. So, without further ado, I'll begin presenting the game to you. So it starts off with Mr. Griffity playing his first move, which is D4. This game has a little video sound to it. I just try to spice it up. Nice little background, you know. Can anybody guess where this is? That's the interesting part. I'm not going to tell you, but if you figure it out, I'll let you know what this metropolis area is. I respond with D5. He plays knight to F3. Put my pawn out to E6. This is just a queen's pawn opening. Some people may call it the Zuckertort. But I'm trying to get into a terrace defense with a setup where the knight actually is just the knights are put on F6, and after C5 from black, the black knight goes to C6. It's a setup that's kind of solid. Sometimes black will get a isolated D5 pawn, but he'll have opportunities to play for an attack due to the open files on the adjacent side of the pawn. So I play C5, he captures, my bishop captures. He brings his pawn to B4, threatens me, I pull back to D6. Puts his bishop on the long diagonal. Now this move right here creates a simple threat of him actually threatening to capture my pawn over here on G7. So of course we can't allow that. And I respond with knight to F6, blocking the knight. With using the knight to block the bishop from capturing the pawn. He plays E3. Push my pawn to B5. Knight to B3 for my opponent. So now with B5, with this move B5, I kind of weaken this square, this C6 square, this yellow square that you see here. So my opponent is going to try and come over to A5. This square right here, maybe I should make it this color so you see the relationship. He's coming to that square to try and put pressure here and try, I guess, to keep, if I move my knight, he could threaten my queen. But this piece alone, it doesn't hold any weight. He needs to have the rest of his army involved. And then this file here isn't even open at all. So I don't know the point of him trying to come here, but this is how he decides to proceed. I bring my knight from B8 to D7, and as I said, he brings his knight to A4. I bring my knight to B6. I'm trying to just try and put a little bit of influence on this square right here, this C4 square, just in case I want to exchange this knight by bringing my knight here and getting him out of here. Maybe using this exchange to enhance my pawn structure and further control space in here. If I could capture with, let's say, this pawn here, I could capture here, then maybe I get the pawn here and I could control some of this space in this area. So my opponent plays knight to C6 anyway, and I move my queen to C7. He goes back to A5. Now this is what, to me, this is wasting time. You come to C6, you go back, you get all the way to A5, and then you decide to go to C6 and go back. So already my opponent is wavering. It doesn't seem like he has a solid plan from what I'm seeing here. I bring my bishop to d7. He captures my knight. Okay, now, this was a good bishop, I believe, sitting on this long diagonal, and to capture this knight, which really wasn't doing anything but sitting here trying to help control e4, it really doesn't make sense to me. But I capture. He brings his bishop to d3. Now, this is an attempt to add pressure to this pawn over here. But as it stands for right now, it's protected. So I move my rook over and counterattack his pawn up here excuse me. Let me show you what I mean. The arrows sometimes get to acting tricky. So this pawn here is what I just put this rook here to add some pressure on. So if he decides that he wants to take this pawn over here, then I will decide to capture this pawn up here. And so that is what the idea behind this is. So he doesn't do it, he protects, and I defend as well. He brings his knight to a5, a castle, queenside. Preparing for him to go to the other side and use my two rooks on the g file, if possible. And this may look a little dangerous, but his knight over here is not really in any position to do anything, and I'm about to attempt to exchange it off by bringing my knight to c4, and then his bishop really doesn't have, his other knight is on the edge of the board, so he doesn't have what's called communication between his pieces. So I feel like I can go to the queen side and wait for him to potentially go to the king side and make something happen. So he brings his queen over to h5. Again, I don't know what he's doing, so I go along my plan. He threatens my rook. I defend it. He captures a pawn. Cool. Him capturing this pawn just puts his queen and his rook in the line of my bishop right here. So he did all of that to put himself in a position to lose another tempo or potentially be down in exchange or for a pawn. So these are some mistakes that I see in this game. And of course, I oblige him by putting my bishop there. He captures the rook. Why did he capture the rook? I have no idea. I believe he could have just gone back here to this square and he would have been fine. But he had his own ideas. He captures this. My rook captures his queen. And from this point on, ladies and gentlemen, I make a few mistakes by missing some mates, maybe in one, but I didn't blunder the game away. And I did eventually win. And this is the part I'll let you see. So my bishop goes to c3, check. He moves down out of check. Capturing the knight. I mean, before, that seemed to me like his most active piece. So let's just get that out of here, right? I'm not trying to do anything right now, but superimpose my stronger material advantage onto him by getting rid of more of his material. I really don't have to try and force too many issues because he can't do much. So my bishop captures a4. His knight goes back to f3. This is something you should remember. A lot of times people get up a piece and they get over aggressive. That's not really necessary. You can pull back, regroup, and your opponent doesn't really have enough material to start anything. So he's just basically waiting for you to end the game. Pawn goes to d4, d5, e5, excuse me. Pawn to e4, I push my pawn up to d4, and then he brings his rook over to, I guess he wants to push the c2 pawn. I bring my bishop here, trying to get rid of another minor piece and bring this game to the conclusion. He pushes. All right, I capture en passant. All right, I see this little trick here, right? He wants to basically take this pawn, right? Hoping that I take, excuse me. No, not yet. Pardon that, that's incorrect. There's something else going on here first. So I take the knight. He takes the bishop. I move my king out of the way. He puts his pawn on h4. I push to h5. He brings the rook over. I just step out of the way. Not like there's any threat here of a major kind, threatening the bishop here to capture this bishop. I don't know what's wrong with these arrows. I'm trying to get them to point in the area that I want them to, and for some reason they are not. So you hear the clicking, but I'm aiming at this bishop. That's the threat here. So he moves his king to defend it. I check him. He goes over to c8. Bishop threatens, and bishop adds pressure to this f2 pawn here. He captures, pull my rook up. I'm preparing to slide over here and come put pressure onto this this pawn right here. These arrows are crazy. I haven't really mastered the arrows yet, but I will. Now he takes my pawn on a3. I bring my rook over to f3. He threatens the other pawn, checking him. This check here forks two pieces, this and this. So he loses a piece, and he also has to check. Right now, this game is reasonable. Moves his king here, capture the bishop. He goes here, check him, and he moves. Now there's a check here. I believe there was a faster mate here that I missed. If you can find it, put it in the comments. I don't like giving away answers easy, but there is a faster mate here. Checking him, he goes here, he captures, I capture, he takes, and he resigns here because, as you can see from here, the rook over here will die as soon as this king moves out of the way. Anyway, he goes here, 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 or here. This goes next, and this game is over. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please like, subscribe, leave any comments that you have below, and I'll respond to you. Have a nice day. This is Chessoptics. Peace.